Greetings. In this series, we are still reflecting over the lies from the rotten Zionists who are serving the state of Israel. Let us continue in this video and reach in the book of Genesis under the title, literally, the title that says Jacob wrestles with God. Jacob wrestles with God. This is chapter 30 in the book of Genesis. Jacob wrestles with God, and let's go to verse 22, 22 in the book of Genesis. That night Jacob got up. Okay, here's the story. He was coming from serving Laban, his uncle Laban in Babylon. He was coming back to Canaan, the land of the Canaanites, Palestine. And in the way, somewhere on the way, maybe halfway, before Canaan, or just before Canaan, he stopped. He crossed the stream with his family, all his possessions, his 4 wives, his children, everything that he had. And then he went back across the stream in the middle of the desert alone. Very weird action. Very strange. No explanation why he did this. And suddenly, while he was alone, what happened? Verse 23, it says, after he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possession, so Jacob was left alone. Suddenly, he decided to do this. Suddenly. No introduction. And a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Suddenly, a man, they say a man, this is God, by the way. A man appeared suddenly and started, fighting. Again, no introduction. Stupid stuff. Mentally retarded, those who made this book, they are mentally retarded. No explanation. Suddenly Jacob is alone in the desert. He left all his family. He sent them away. He's in the middle of the desert alone. And suddenly a man appeared and started wrestling. Mentally retarded. What's the reason, for this fight? When the man saw that he could not overpower him, this man, God, he is God. According to the book, we'll find out in a second. Just hold on. He touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. The man is God. Then the man said, let me go. He cannot even release himself from the grip of Jacob, human being. For it is daybreak, or looks like he's a bat. He cannot survive the sun, or a Dracula perhaps. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. He's winning, right? He can put his demands. He can demand what he wants. The man asked him, what is your name? Such an ignorant man. Who is this? God. Doesn't even know the name of this man who beat him. Jacob, he answered. My name is Jacob. All right? Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God, God, and with humans, and have overcome. You defeated. Jacob said, please tell me your name. He's asking this man, God. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed them there. Finished. The end of the story. He got beaten, his ass was beaten, and he took off. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, what's the meaning of this? It is because I saw God face to face. He saw God face to face. And yet my life was spared. So this man, who got his ass beaten was God, according to this. The whole chapter is called Jacob Wrestles with God. It is called that in the Bible. And the details how Jacob beaten the ass of God in the middle of the desert. And he was blessed for this. His name was changed from Jacob to Israel. Cursing Abraham again. This is one of his sons. And they say that he beaten the ass of God in the middle of the desert. How much curses they can put on the man of the Lord, this great man named Abraham. This is amazing. Rotten stuff. Insult to their God to extremes. No nation ever can insult what they worship like this. Not even the Hindu. I have never heard a story that a human being wrestled with one of the gods of the Hindu. Well, gods fighting among themselves, like the Greek myth. One goddess, she danced the dance of war, and every step she steps on the head of a god and kill him. Stupidity exists, but not like this. She's a goddess, at least, killing other gods. But this is a human being fighting and defeating and beating the ass of God. And he called it this place Peniel because he struggled with God and man, and he defeated. All right. So we can see that the curses for Abraham continues, and this will continue, by the way, for the rest of their lives. The Israelis, they continue to insult and curse Abraham everywhere they go. And in Egypt, for hundreds of years, they were so rotten against the Egyptians. They caused a huge number of Egyptians, pushed them to poverty and loans and miserable life, and they took their children, their homes, their belongings, their mules, whatever animals, farm animals they had, sheep, until the king, the Pharaoh defeated the Hyksos, the kings who came from Arabia. So the Pharaoh defeated the kings, and Pharaoh became a ruler again, and he heard all the stories of what the Israelis have done against the Egyptians. That's why he put them to slavery for 400 years. Now, according to the Jewish Christian book, another sentence say 430 years as slaves in Egypt. This was a great punishment for a stupid Israeli nation that deserved, after what they have done to the Egyptians. And this is, they don't mention in their book. They are too ashamed to say it. Suddenly, from Genesis to the book of Exodus, suddenly the Israelis became numerous, so huge in number, and the king of Egypt, or they say the king, it's Pharaoh, it's not the king, another lie. The ruler of Egypt, the Pharaoh, saw that, they are so many, huge in number. He was afraid they will join the enemy against him, so he put them all into slavery, a rotten lie. That doesn't legitimate, what the Egyptians have done to the Israelis during those 400 years. Doesn't legalize, the killing of the children, raping of the Israeli women, the hardship the Israeli men lived through 400 years. It was a punishment from the Lord Himself. So here's the question. The Lord said to Abraham, I will bless you and bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. So the actions of the Israelis against the Egyptians was a curse over Abraham, their father. So the Lord avenged Himself by placing the Israelis into slavery for 400 years. How do we know this? We ask the question, if this is a blessed nation, the Israelis, if they are blessed, because the book say, and He blessed His son Isaac, as we mentioned in the previous video. So if this is a blessed nation by God, why He left them 400 years in this slavery and this misery? He can save them, and He did. After this period of time passed, He sent a man named Moses. With the help of the Lord, Moses was able to remove them from this slavery. So he could have done it long before. Long before, not 400 years. 400 years, in misery is a very long time for the Israelis to live. So it was a punishment from the Lord, removing them from slavery. According to the Quran explanation in the Muslims' hand, it was a favor the Lord is doing to the Israelis, not because He loved them, and a punishment to Pharaoh and his people who have abused the Israelis. They were supposed to punish the Israelis, but not to exaggerate, while the Egyptians did exaggerate in the punishment they inflicted. Their hatred, for the actions of the Israelis against the Egyptians was to extremes. How dare those Israelis who came from Canaan to our land to abuse our people like this? So they went too far in the punishment. So the Lord said, enough is enough. Those Israelis received what they deserve and little over, so let us remove them, take them to Canaan to relax, to the land of milk and honey, to live in peace with the Palestinians. But guess what? They said, no, you go with your Lord, Moses. You find the Canaanites, those giant warriors. We're going to sit here until you come back. So the Lord said, okay, send them back to the desert for 40 years until all that rotten generation dies and new generation come before the Lord will allow them to go in. And we'll speak about this next time, the terrorist Israeli nation. What happened immediately after they became a nation and they entered into Palestine the first time? What happened? And what's happening today? History repeats itself with those rotten terrorists from the state of Israel. Take care.